Before you get started, I suggest grabbing some gloves. I'm gonna double layer because this stuff burns your skin. Even with one of these on, if you start sweating, you can start to feel your hand burn a little bit. So before you use that, put on a pair of these and maybe even double them up. Alright guys, working on a little project here. This is a B18 valve cover right here. As you can see, it's pretty junky, all the paint's peeling off. I did make it a little bit worse by rubbing on it the other day to try to chip some of it off to get this process started, but right now I'm going to repaint it gold, so we'll see how it goes. Basically all I got was I went ahead and got my gold flake. It's about $9 a can at AutoZone or Walmart. The clear coat, you don't necessarily need it, but a lot of people suggest it if you want it to last a while. That was about $7 or $8 at Walmart, you know, plus tax. This was about $13. It comes in this can. There's a couple versions where you can spray it on as well in a like an aerosol can. I went ahead and got this, and then I'm using a sponge to paint it on. You can see I did one preliminary coat before I started this video here, and you can see it's already starting to pull it off a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is finish painting on this aircraft grade paint remover here and let it sit for about 5 to 15 minutes and just keep kind of poking at it. You can see it's already starting to work, and that was about 2 minutes ago when I applied it. So just keep poking at it until you can see that it's starting to remove it, and then just keep applying it over the remaining paint until it's all gone, and then we'll go on from there. One more thing I want to note is that I removed the oil cap here, and then I'm going to remove all this other excess stuff here. There's a couple more bolts I need to remove so that I can get to the paint. All that's going to be removed, at least. I'm not too worried about in here as much because that's where the spark plug cap's set, and I'm not too worried about taking that off. And then also probably not as worried about this little part here because that's where the spark plug cover will sit, right across there. But if you want to do it right, you need to get all that stuff out too. The other thing is I went ahead and took the gasket out from in here. I just left those because I'm planning on plugging the holes from the top, and I'm not going to worry about overspray in that area. So to give you a little idea, this aircraft remover, I thought it was going to be a lot more liquidy, kind of like regular paint thinner, but if you let's see if I can do this here. You can see it's a little bit more jelly, kind of like. So I just use this old what do you call this here, sponge, and just kind of paint it on here over all the areas I need to take it off, and you can see a nice little layer there. And then I just let that sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. Like I said before, just keep checking it, and some will come off, others will stay. Just keep going at it. Okay guys, my paint was so bad that this is about 1.5 minutes after I applied it, and you can see just kind of coming off in layers here all at once. Just scrape it off. Now I don't know if you'll have the same success as I am right now, but this is actually turning out to be a lot easier than trying to sand this. So hopefully I'll get all the crevices done. I've seen some people use a toothbrush for that, an old toothbrush. Don't use your current one, obviously. But yeah, I went ahead and stole the toothbrush from the bathroom. Hope nobody misses it, but that's to help get into all the different cracks and crevices in here, places that sponge could not go. So hopefully this will help me out here. Alright, so I gotta hurry up and get this painted. You can see I missed a lot of red spots in there. I'm gonna go take it back inside and try to clean it up a little bit. But you can see basically what I did was, once I scrubbed off the main parts of the paint, I just doused the whole thing in that aircraft paint remover, and just thoroughly coated the whole thing. Let it sit for about 1 minute or two, and once you start seeing it crinkle up a little bit, then I just hit it with a water hose and put it on a higher pressure, and you can see even down in there, almost got everything off just by letting it drip down in there. No scrubbing at all. So now once I clean up the last little bit there, we should be ready for paint, and hopefully I can get this back on the car tomorrow. Another note, since you're using water here, make sure it's all dry before you slap it back on the car. You don't want any water getting in your oil. My phone's almost dead here, but I can't turn on the light, but you can see that this paint strippers has started cannibalizing itself. It's been doing a pretty good job too. It takes the paint clean off. Now that I got as much paint off as I'm going to get off tonight, I took some steel wool here. This is really fine steel wool. I got a towel around it so I don't get splinters, because I don't have any more gloves that haven't been burned through by that stupid aircraft thinner stuff. Anyway, I'm trying to polish them up so that after I paint it, I'm going to shave all the emblems with a razor blade, and hopefully I'll polish them up enough that they look pretty good and pop on the gold afterwards. So we'll see how it goes. Now, after sanding, I got a lot of the dust from the steel wool down in there, so I went ahead and just grabbed some Q-tips, and should be able to reach in those hard to get to places where my fingers don't fit. So hopefully I can get the rest of that dirt out there. You can see I didn't get all the paint out, did it in the dark, and this has got to go back together tomorrow. So hopefully I can cover that up with the spark plug cover there. Now that I got this as clean as I'm going to get, I'm going to go ahead and dry off the inside and outside as good as I can, and then use some masking tape. You can use painter's tape or electrical tape. This is all the neighborhood Walmart had, so that's what I grabbed. And I use a trash bag or whatever you want to cover up that whole part so that you don't get any paint on the inside of the valve cover. Alright, I'm taping up all these holes from the bottom side here, except for the oil fill hole up here. I'm going to tape that up from the top side because I don't want to get anything on the threads. Other than that, there's a few holes on the top side. I'm going to have to use my knife and cut circles out to cover them, because I don't want to have to clean out threads, the paint out of the threads. So after this, I should be ready to go. I'm going to tape this side here and use this to cover the rest of it. But after that, I should be ready to paint. I went ahead and just taped that top part up here and folded all the sides in. I can shave off the lip there, even if some gets painted with a razor blade. Taped up the hose input there. What I did here was hopefully just block enough so that the threads stay clean. I just twisted up a long piece of tape and twisted it down in there, kind of screwed it in to mark the threads to keep paint off of it. All these ones where the bolts go all the way through, I figure I can clean that out later, so I'm not going to tape that up. And so I'm going to take this outside and start painting it. Alright, first thing I'm going to do, now that I got it all set up, after I shake that paint can and mix that paint real good, I'm going to hit all of the tough to get spots first, so the edges, the cracks, and then down in there I'm going to try to get first and do one coat that way, and then do another coat over everything else. So I figure all the crevices will end up getting more paint on them in the end, but if you hit it first, you can hopefully smooth it out over the next few coats. Alright, here's my first coat. As you can see, you can still see a little bit of aluminum through it. That's alright. I prefer my coats to be light, thin, and then do multiple coats. It'll come out much better looking that way. I'm doing it in the dark on this side. Looks like I got, alright, I'm going to need to hit that edge again, but once this coat dries, I'd give it 10 minutes or so per coat, depending on the paint you use, but that's what it says on this can. And just keep going over it until it is the color you want and as thick as paint as you want, and then go ahead and let that sit all night to dry before you put it on tomorrow. Be sure to do this from all different angles and short light strokes. If you don't, and if you do it in the dark like me, you can see right there it's starting to pool a little bit and drip. That's because I put too much trying to hit that little crack there, and it was dark and I couldn't tell how much I was putting on. And luckily this is going to be on the back side of the motor, so hopefully people won't see that. Oh well. So I really like how this is starting to look. This is about 2 coats of paint here. Looks like there's a couple more things like right there that I need to put a couple more coats over. I'm still on my first can of paint, so it looks like I'll be able to cover this pretty well with just one can. And I'm actually liking the gold flake here, so I'm probably not going to put that clear coat. I'm going to just return that. So I might get away with painting this for only $9 worth of paint. So I'm going to go ahead and put on another coat or 2 tonight. Hopefully it looks this good tomorrow in the daylight. And then after I actually mount it back on my car, I'm going to go ahead and shave the VTEC and Honda logos there. Well, it's taken me forever to get to this video, but here I am about 2 years down the road, a little bit shorter 2 years, but this is what the paint finish still looks nice and clean. Of course I've got a little bit of dirt left on it, just need to clean it. But as far as how well the paint has held up, with that job that you just watched, it looks like it has done really well to standing up to the heat.